Hi everyone, Anthony Fantano here, internet's busiest music nerd. Hope you're doing well. And it is time for a video about a topic that I've gotten a lot of questions about over the years. It would seem that after watching quite a few of my reviews, some of you have come away with the impression that I am articulate. I speak in an articulate manner.
You're so well-spoken. You never go, Mom, or anything. How are you so well-spoken?
I would tend to disagree. I don't think I'm the most articulate guy on the planet. However, how I speak and what I say, given my profession, is something that I do try to stay on top of and be conscious of. So with that, I thought that I would kind of recommend to you guys some tips and tricks for ways that you yourself might become more articulate. Bam, 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 bam. Recommendation number one is know what you're going to say before you say it, because a mark of being articulate is your word choice, and also being able to avoid and stray away from crutch words and crutch phrases. I myself have had issues with this in the past, and in a way, this channel right here that you're watching is almost like a bit of a training ground for me, because a lot of these videos I don't script them super heavily, so I am going out on a bit of a limb when I record a lot of the material on this channel. Sure, I have written myself a bunch of notes for this video, and I've bullet pointed the things that I want to say and the points that I want to make, but still, a lot of the time when I am recording on this channel, I am trying to be super conscious of the words that I am using, and I am trying to be as conscious as possible to not overload my sentences and not overload my paragraphs with you know, and there are other crutch words and phrases that you yourselves may be familiar with that you might use on a regular basis to just kind of fill in the gaps of space in your speech and your communication. And I think then I just kind of did a little bit of an right there a few words ago. And it certainly comes with, I think, this pressure to not pause, because I think a lot of people assume that if you're pausing, if you're waiting, if you're not speaking as quickly as possible and you're not making your point as quickly as possible, you know, speaking like a Ben Shapiro, like, if you're not rattling off everything that you're saying sort of at that speed or in that nasally, weird, bossy tone, then you must be slow or you must not know what you want to say. Don't be afraid of embracing space a little bit and slowing down your speech a little bit. Obviously not too slow, but slowing it down just a little bit so that you're not tripping over your words, so that you're not messing up what you're trying to say, so that you're not overloading every single point you're making with, getting your point across clearly and without distracting the audience with too much extra garbage and filler and baggage is most definitely the goal when you're communicating, and I would say a kind of a key tenet to being perceived as articulate. And again, to kind of bring it back to my original point here, I think a key way to avoid doing that, to getting bogged down in that way, is to know what you are going to say before you say it. And that doesn't necessarily mean go to the extent of scripting out every single word you make. It can be as simple as knowing the point you want to make, knowing the idea you want to communicate, where you're going to start with that idea, where you are going to eventually take it, knowing points and concepts that you want to communicate along the way. My second recommendation, for becoming more articulate is listening to other people speak who are articulate, which might seem kind of like a no-duh answer here, but I think you become a better communicator through listening to other people communicate better as well, much in the same way that you may become a better drummer or a singer or a guitar player by listening to great guitar players and drummers and singers and kind of copying the best practices that you see them executing. I don't know if you guys know this, but I got my start in radio, and I got my start in public radio, and I have for years listened to a lot of political news shows and podcasts. I mean, political science was actually a concentration in my degree, and communication, speeches, lecturing, communicating ideas is a pretty key characteristic to politics, and I feel like all of my years in radio and all of my years consuming political media and political podcasts and political YouTube channels have definitely informed the way that I speak and the way that I communicate to my audience. Sure, I use a lot of jokes and colloquial language and slang in my reviews as well, and that's mostly because I don't see my reviews as being like super uptight. They're relatively chill. I'm going to talk to you in my video in the same way that I would most likely talk to you if we were having a conversation about the record face to face. Although I try to be a little bit more proper about it and communicate in my videos as if I were talking about the album to like a large group or maybe a small group of people, like 100 people or so. So again, I would recommend listening to other people speak who you think speak properly, and some individuals who I would definitely recommend are like a skeptic James Randi, who has a lot of talks out there on the internet that are very well formed, very logical, very persuasive, very well delivered. And what's amazing about a lot of James Randi's speeches and videos is that that dude does not pause. He does not do jump cuts or anything like that. It's like he has the whole concept of what he wants to say mapped out in his head before he goes out and says it, as if he's literally written the script on his brain and he's reading off his own brain. But if you do listen to James Randi, also take note, he doesn't speak super fast. He takes the care to deliver every single word he communicates in a very pointed and a very conscious manner. And I guess that's kind of a sub recommendation I would make here. Be present while you're talking. Think about all of the things that you're saying and what they are going to communicate, who you are saying them to. So I would highly recommend James Randi. I would highly recommend David Pakman over on the David Pakman YouTube channel. He has a great political YouTube channel that, in my opinion, is very fair, very balanced. And while I do watch a lot of different political YouTube channels, David Pakman, in my opinion, is one of the best in terms of just having very clean, very even speech and tone and delivery. It's very calming. It's very easy to digest. It's not very heated or aggressive or sort of out of pocket or anything like that. And look, there are some political YouTubers who I like who, do get heated in their delivery. I do like to see maybe some Young Turks every once in a while. I do like to watch Kyle over at Secular Talk. And this is not a diss to them, but I don't necessarily watch those channels because I think the delivery is super articulate or anything like that. I would say it's more passionate than it is articulate. But if you're going to take the time to listen to other people speak, just make sure they're individuals who you think are speaking well, actually speaking well. Listen to the words they choose. Also, are they able to complete an entire sentence without tripping over their words or using crutch words? Are they able to go multiple sentences and conclude a logical thought or point or idea? Third recommendation here, and it's a pretty straightforward and simple one, but take the time to read a little bit more, and also when you see someone or hear someone use a word that you don't know what it means, you've never heard it before, you've heard it around, but you didn't take the time to look it up, please take the time to look it up. Especially since we all have our phones here. And we could easily just Google the dictionary definition of literally anything. There's pretty much no excuse at this point not to just take a few seconds to look a word up, add to your vocabulary a little bit, and just contribute to the quality of your own speech in everyday life. The fourth point I want to make here, and it's also straightforward, is take the time to write a little bit more. Because most people who I meet out there who are articulate speakers are also pretty decent writers. They understand how to logically conclude a sentence or a point. They understand how to pack in a paragraph, how to structure a sentence. They understand how to successfully avoid word repetitions. So reading more and writing more is certainly key to being more articulate, in my opinion. The fifth and last point I want to make here is don't speak when you're angry if you don't want to be perceived as not articulate, because to me, coming off that way is very much about composure. It's very much about delivery. It's very much about being conscious of every single word you're using. And I know in my experience, if I'm upset, I'm mad, I'm unhappy, I'm whatever, whatever state I'm in where I'm overcome with emotion, I'm going to be way less likely to come off articulate, use the right word, not offend somebody, not say something in a way that I'm going to regret. So if you are somebody who values being articulate and indulges in a bit of public speaking, wants to communicate an idea, something like that, doing it in a state where you're pissed off, you're angry, you're mad, you want to tell somebody off, you don't care about how you look when you say it, that's not necessarily the best state to be in. And look, that's not to say that when you are mad or you're sad or whatever, you can't talk, you can't say anything, but keep in mind in those emotional states, your composure is not really going to be there and your communication is most likely not going to be top notch. And coming off articulate and speaking publicly is kind of all about that. So at the end of the day, keep in mind, this is all just advice. I'm not speaking facts of life here or anything. These are not scientifically proven methods to become the most articulate person on the planet or anything like that. These are just some tips and tricks that have worked for me personally, and I bestow them onto you. And there you go. There you go. Over here next to my head is another video. Hit that up or the link to subscribe to the channel. You're the best, you're the best, you're the best, you're the best. Anthony Fantano, articulate forever.